Hey everyone, welcome to a special WrestlingFigureNews.com interview. My name is Justin Kindle, and I am the editor of Wrestling Figure News. And I am joined today by Matthew Goldberg, MBG1211, and I'm sure everyone in the community probably knows you.
Well, thanks so much for having me, man. I appreciate it. It's great to finally meet you face to face too.
Yeah, it's great to meet you as well. Like I've been following you. I've been following your Instagram for years. And one thing I didn't realize until the last couple of years, and we were talking a little bit about this before we jumped on, was I didn't realize you were the man behind Wrestling Figure News Source on Twitter.
Yeah, that was my baby and probably my most successful account that I have of all my accounts. And it's really wild what that account has turned into over the years too.
It really is,
Yeah.
because that is a go-to source for wrestling figure news as well. If you're not following, you guys should be following the Twitter and turn on alerts, because that's been a great avenue for me for expanding my collection.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's totally a pure passion project of mine. It started, what was it? Could have been like 2010-ish, maybe. I originally created that account for Jax when I was partnered with them in the TNA line. And I started a TNA figures, I think is what the account was called at the time. And it was just to cover all news on the figure line and, share information, what people can expect. And, even the TNA wrestlers were following it and asking me like, oh, when's my figure coming? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm not like officially with Jax, but I work with them to get information out and the proper information. And then the TNA line died. And, it's like, well, now what? Um, so I decided to turn it into just all wrestling figure news and do WWE. And, that was really all I was covering, I think, at the time. And now look what we have to cover as
It's
years are going
unreal.
on. Yeah, and people like treat that account like it's the freaking Bible, I guess, of wrestling news, where they just are obsessed with it and ask me questions all the time, like, when is this coming? Where can I get that? Or blah blah blah. And it's just amazing. Like I get so many notifications a day. I don't even see like everybody's tweets to me half the time, which I'm sorry. If you're watching this and I ignored you, it's not on purpose. It's just that account is so popular now and it's just really flattering. And like Major Pod talks about it, I guess they use it as a source. So that's really humbling too, that they even respect it. And now, like you said yourself, you use it for your website, which is awesome. And I'll have people like Steve or Ringside or whatever and say, hey, can you post this on there? Or can you take something down, that's not 100% accurate, or you don't want to bring attention to something, so I've gotten better about reporting, and then it turned into doing it for WrestleZone.com as well. So I do the same thing for them, but not as heavily coverage, as I don't think a lot of stuff necessarily warrants an article, so to speak. So sometimes I'll combine a bunch of info into one article for them and get it out. But yeah, I never thought I'd be in reporting news. So, you
Well,
know,
and you've been able to parlay some of these relationships too into like you built a relationship with Jeremy Padawer from Jazwares through Jax, and that's carried over, and now you're doing figure photography for them, like product photography that is going on major retailers' websites.
yeah, man, it's absolutely mind boggling to me. Because it's always just been a hobby. Everything's just been a hobby, total passion driven. I've worked with Jeremy on things since I was 15. So I'm 30 now, be 31 soon. I've known him half my life, and he gave me my first opportunity. And, our friendship just kind of developed over the years, where he'd have me create content with the figures. There's like the UFC line and the TNA line. I know they gave me WWE stuff, but I don't really recall ever doing anything with that line. But the TNA relationship really evolved, and then then he kind of went to Wicked Cool Toys with his company, and they were out of the figure game pretty much. So I helped them with their rings and like the big think they're taller than 12-inch, those huge wrestlers figures they were making.
Yeah.
And, and then he went to Jazwares and AEW came about, and it was really cool that he was really back in the game again. And, I had applied for a job with them earlier this year to do social media marketing, as that's what my day-to-day career is when I'm not doing figure photography, is doing social media marketing for companies. And they had a role. So I was like, oh my God, it's like a dream job. So I reached out to him and he helped me get through the interview process. And, I had a bunch of interviews with their team, and then they wanted to hire me, which was awesome. But they wanted me to move to Florida, and it was during COVID, and my wife and I are really hesitant about traveling at the time since it was still very up in the air. And so it kind of fell through, which was really a bummer to me, as it was a dream job, and I was like, wow, I have to really walk away from this. And Jeremy was even really bummed by it because he's wanted to work with me, like professionally, I guess. But like a month or so later, he texted me and say, hey, is it okay if we send you some projects? And I was like, sure. Like, I don't know what that means, but okay. And then they're like, do you want to shoot AEW Series 5? And I was like, yeah. I didn't want to turn that down, but I've never done photography like that before. I'm just used to doing the artistic recreations of things. I've never professionally shot stuff for like Target and Walmart and all that. And so they sent it here, and I had literally like 72 hours, I want to say, to figure it out and get it all done. And you're talking like 150 plus pictures plus editing all of them. So I was like staying up really late at night working on it. And I finally figured it out with them to the point that they liked it. And they liked it so much, and the reception was so great from all you guys on like the reveal photos of them like pose, like doing stuff like that. And they're like, can we send you more? And I was like, okay. And now it's literally like my second full-time job. And it's amazing, seeing my stuff living on GameStop and Walmart and Target. It's like, holy crap, that's mine. Like I did that. And just the support from everybody has been tremendous and so flattering and uplifting to me, because I've been so passionate, much like others, for 15 years, just working and working and working. And an opportunity finally like opened up that the timing made sense, and it all worked out.
So what have you learned through that process? What are the differences between being sort of the artistic figure photographer and then doing it for basically for retail?
Sure. So like I've done some artistic photography even for them, which you guys haven't seen yet. I'm not sure when that will ever surface, but it's a lot different because you're working for corporate now. And I'm working essentially with AEW too, so they have their standards and desires of how they want the talent to look, or what moves you could do, or even limitations with the backdrops and things. So I had to learn to shoot a little differently, especially the e-commerce stuff is total different shoot. You have to clean them up, make sure there's no glare on their body, because you want them to look really nice and presentable, because you want it to make someone buy it. You don't want them to look like garbage, because then someone's like, I don't want that, it doesn't look appealing. And capturing their personality, even though that's, I think, one thing they like about me is my attention to detail in that regard. With my artistic stuff, is that I do, in their opinion, a great way of capturing the wrestler. So they wanted me to bring that to the shoots for like the reveal shots. Because a lot of people at companies, and it's not just toy companies, but it's just a job to people. They're not necessarily a collector. They're not a fan of whatever the subject matter is. They're just shooting, so they might not know the personality of the wrestler, their signature, poses or taunts and things. So it was a big learning curve. I mean, lighting, I had to learn lighting differently because their packaging glares a lot with all the foil. It's an absolute nightmare for me to shoot their packaging. I will admit that it's tough because the light hits it so differently all the time. And I don't know. And I don't have a professional studio, you know, it's just my setup that I've invested in over the years too, with different lights. And now I have like the big white like backdrop and everything for larger items. And you know, I'm learning as I go. It's been a big learning process, but seeing your guys' feedback and their feedback has I don't know, just kept the momentum really going.
Are you currently working on some stuff that we're going to be seeing here in the near future?
Yeah, I've worked on a bunch of stuff you guys haven't seen yet. And I'm hoping, because I know Jeremy teased reveals next week, which I don't even know what we're seeing. So I'm very excited myself, you know, being a collector at heart, to know, you know, I imagine there's renders, and I'm hoping it's some of the stuff that I've actually done that they've been sitting on for a while. Um, but yeah, there's plenty of stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff is leaked, sadly, which I hate, but the good pictures of a lot of that stuff will hopefully surface soon too, and you guys will find out where to get a lot of that stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for more from them. I think in the next week or two, they're gonna be sending me more stuff. So that's why I haven't been posting as often on my own page.
Well, let's shift gears here a little
Sure.
bit. You're a longtime collector. I think everybody can tell from looking right behind you that you're a major
Yeah.
collector.
Yeah.
But this era that we're in now, I've heard Steve from Mattel call it the golden era of wrestling figure collecting. I think others have said it as well. You know, we've got AEW figures, we've got WWE figures, we've got New Japan figures. It sounds like MLW figures are going to be coming soon. Figures Toy Company makes wrestling figures. There are a lot of options out there. How do you feel? Do you agree with that? Do you think
Oh
that this is
yeah.
sort of a golden era?
Heck yeah. I mean, there's a bajillion lines you didn't even mention, you know, like the Cella toys. There's I don't know if I'm saying it right. Is it like Sofubi or something? Those weird like rubber LJN kind of looking ones. You know, Super Seven. Well, you said New Japan, but they have like the Andre and those other ones, and Storm Collectibles with Liger, and I mean we could go on and on, of course, but it's absolutely crazy how much there is to collect. You know, that's probably why I should cut back on these non-wrestling collections I'm starting, because there's so much wrestling now to collect. But the biggest thing I think um, is the crowdfunding thing that, you know, Mattel with Steve and Rob and Bill and them. You know, that's a game changer now for the community, and I'm very intrigued and excited to see what that exactly means for all of us going forward. It's going to be big ticket items, of course, um, but it's the future. You know, I wouldn't be surprised, and this is not me alluding to anything. I have no knowledge of this, honestly, but I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, like Jazwares jumps on that in the future, and other companies do, because, you know, it's a way for diehard collectors to get these really unique items that there's no Toys R Us anymore, you know, so you can't just go to the store and find a $200 item, because Target and Walmart aren't going to do that usually, at least for wrestling. But
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and this is, I'm glad you brought that up, because this is a conversation that you and I have had on social is
for sure.
about this project. And, you know, when it initially launched, it wasn't looking great. And then the
No.
Macho Man really sort of, that package with the WrestleMania 10 Ultimate Edition really turned things around. And I'm sure you were watching it like I
Oh yeah.
was and
Yeah.
everybody else, and
Yeah.
watching that
Oh, yeah.
number just tick up.
Yeah, I mean, I was a day one pre-order. I was like ecstatic that they finally did this, because I ordered one of the Hasbro ones from the Mandalorian or whatever, and I thought it was the coolest thing that this was like a thing in toy collecting now, to get these really big unique items. And then Mattel jumped on it, and I was like, oh my god, like now we're gonna get probably like awesome entrance stages, and, you know, a chamber, Hell in a Cell, even though I have the original ones, but, you know, nicer ones would be great. And just the possibilities are endless, you know, playset things from the past, you know, like a barber shop would be really cool with Janetti and Sean. just stuff like that, stuff we can't see now. And, we don't necessarily want a cardboard version of it either, which is a trend of things now because it's a lot cheaper for them to do that. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping, I really hope Jazwares jumps on it, and I would love like a really nice AEW stage would be so freaking cool, but hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, when Jeremy was talking about the line early on, it sounded like he was going to go the direction of cardboard, with which
Yeah.
they had done at Wicked Cool with a
Right.
couple of WWE stages, and they've got the crowd. But it sounded like that was the initial route that they were thinking, and maybe, like you said, fingers
Yeah, no, that'd
crossed, maybe
be
things have changed.
I think this will at least give them an outlet. Obviously, I don't know all their budgeting and everything like that, the financials of it, but I think at least knowing they could work with higher price points, it would give them more freedom to explore something big, or even doing like a Sue's van, or, Sammy with the golf cart or something. I mean, granted, those shouldn't be that costly. I would think they're just a vehicle, but I don't know if a Walmart or Target would necessarily want something like that, but I don't know. I mean, AEW doesn't have as many unique stages and match types like WWE does. So I don't know if crowdfunding makes sense yet for them. I don't know. Well, they could do the blood and guts cage. It'd be really cool. Yeah, whatever this is. The big cage, the war game style cage. That'd be awesome. Now that I
Yeah,
think about that, but
get some
I don't know.
giant poker chips, and
Yeah, all that
I
stuff.
mean, you already have them, so
Yeah, yeah. I had Diorama Dad make me those. He's super talented guy. You guys should check him out. Shout out to him.
yeah, those
Um,
look very cool.
yeah, I love all those things because it helps me complete the scene that I'm trying to recreate. I just all the little details I can add are always appealing to me. So, if Mattel can make a fifth stage that looks really nice, I'd love to have that to do some ruthless photography with, or just even have it in the distance in the background of a shot or something. I don't know. I'm very, very excited though, because it's a brand new door in the community and it's going to lead to some really cool stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the question will be, which direction that Mattel goes with it, because we're probably looking at only one project a year. So,
Yeah, which I think people, that might sound disappointing, but at the same time, for your wallet's sake, it's probably best it's once a year. My wife would probably shoot me if I did like 2 or 3 of those a year. I mean, granted, I have the new gen ring I ordered, and then like I just ordered the Hasbro Galactus or whatever. Um,
wow.
but thank God for Klarna and stuff like that. Otherwise, it would not be a reality for me at all.
Well, and I think that's one thing that really helped with this, and that's something that you sort of pointed out, and I'm not sure a lot of
Yeah,
collectors knew of going in, which is this social app, Klarna, that gives you sort of like it's not a layaway program, but it's a payment
yeah,
program.
you're
They
right.
break it
Yeah,
up into 4 or 6 payments.
yeah, it's amazing. It was funny because a week or two before they launched the arena, my buddy and I were talking about Klarna for whatever reason. He was just telling me about it, and he had mentioned that, and I've used it like on GameStop and stuff where it's already built into the website. But I had no idea you could like download the app and then use a web browser and go on any website where you could buy something and use this 4 payment plan. So I was like, wait a minute, I wonder if it works with the new gen ring. And I was like, oh my God, it does. And I was excited, because I don't want to drop 250 at once if I don't have to, that's a lot of money. I mean, Galactus like $400 or whatever. I don't have that just laying around where I could spend it freely. So it was really nice to have that ability to break it down. I feel much better spending like $70 or $140 a month versus 250 all at once. So you guys should really look into that if there's bigger items. Even Ringside has like a PayPal, like the pay in four. That's my favorite thing on there. Like if I order a wave to keep mint or whatever, I'm using that, so I'm only paying partial for them. I'm not dropping 120 something or whatever it is. at once. It's just fantastic that you have that option,
I didn't realize Ringside had that with PayPal. I know that you can use
Yeah,
Klarna with Ringside as well, which helps for
yeah,
some of those
for sure.
um, pre-orders that, are
Oh yeah,
months away.
exactly. No, I it's my favorite thing, and honestly, I've spent the most I probably ever have on Ringside ever since learning of that. Obviously I'm partnered with them, but I still like having extras of things, or I want an extra of someone to turn into a different outfit or something. And or now with AEW, like I want a mint set because I have to open everything that's given to me. So I want a mint set as like a portfolio piece for me. So I could be like, hey, I got to shoot this wave, like it means a lot to me. Um, and I love using the PayPal thing. It's a lifesaver, it's a game changer financially.
Oh yeah.
It's just
Uh,
wonderful. It's dangerous too because you just keep doing it, and then it's like, well, now you have like six partial payments, and they're all together, So it adds up. But so
y-
be careful with that because it is addicting, I must admit. But
yeah, it can add up to being, well, I should have just paid outright for that one,
right, right, right.
So, you've tracked the news this year as I, and we talk about the arena funding project, and I'm guessing that's probably the biggest news story of the year in wrestling figure collecting
I
so
would say
far.
so.
Would
Yeah,
you think? Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, um, I would say so because that, like I said, that's just such a huge game changer in the industry too. Honestly,
One of the things that we've also noticed this year is just sort of increased articulation. Mattel is doing a lot more of that. We've got double jointed elbows on a lot of figures, not all of them yet, but a
sure,
lot of them.
sure.
And we've got butterfly joints on Ultimates, as well as increased articulation. Jazwares really came on strong with
Yeah,
all the articulation there, and the really my favorite thing is the ability to just pop a figure in half and not have to crack a torso
yeah,
and be able to like put an upper body on a lower body, mix and match, which is fantastic if you got that first series of AEW figures
exactly,
and you've got the
exactly.
skin tone that's off and you can just swap that out.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So when you look at that, what would you like to see more of in the future?
Um, well, with Mattel, I mean, I love what they're doing now for us with the butterfly and the double jointed elbows. I know Steve's like very tapped into our part of the community as well. That's how I met Steve originally. Actually, it was him doing photography too. Um, but when I was doing my Bret Hart and Austin shot the other day, I was bummed that they did not have the ball jointed waist like Jazwares does, because you could either crank them more or literally just pop them in half and like keep them together somehow to sell the illusion better. So I hope Mattel does that eventually too, is give them that ball jointed waist just to give them even more posability. I wouldn't be surprised if eventually they go that route. And at the same time, I hope Jazwares adapts like butterfly joints to their guys would be great. Um, they do have double jointed elbows. That's right. I couldn't remember if
Mhm.
they did or not. Yeah, so that'd be the only thing I think for Jazzers I'd love to see is a butterfly
Yeah.
joint added to their torsos. But Mattel, I love that they started doing that for us, especially photographers. And Steve like told me that that line was definitely created with all of us in mind. Because it just really helps us capture that realism. Like even the Brett and Austin shot, I was able to make Austin just look like he's in agony on the ground, because he's all hunched instead of like his arms out here or something where his arms can't come like this, but now they can, so you could make him look just more real. I strive for realism with my work, so having that ability to pose them so well is like a dream come true.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm glad you brought up that photo because that's definitely the one I was thinking of as far as like when you get leg articulation like that, you're like, oh, how are you getting him in the sharpshooter or
Right.
this other move, And I think to a degree, we're all a little spoiled at this point with
Oh my God, yeah.
the the amount of articulation, the amount of different hands choices that
Yep.
even if you got a gigantic bag full of hands,
Yeah.
it's way better than it was.
Yeah, no, I hope and I think Jazwares is stepping up their game in that department too, with doing more types of hands and things. Um, as we need that with those guys. A lot of them don't necessarily come with that, or the more expression heads. Like, I'm anxious for them to do a Jericho with his mouth closed, because I'm a big fan of just the serious faces, unless of course like you're trying to evoke a certain emotion specifically from them. So I'm hoping they continue to do more emotion heads and hands, especially. More fists, and like people are annoyed they couldn't really hold the accessory pack, the barbed wire set or whatever, but now there are hands. Like, I think Miro has it, and MJF does too, where they have like the more closed hand. So you could, people don't always think like you could just swap those hands if the tone matches. Just swap that hand with the hand of Omega or something, and it works for them. So you can have them hold the weapon or whatever. Um, but no, that's something, now being close with the team too. I love to have my little powwows with them sometimes. I'll just throw like a bajillion ideas at them, and sometimes they love it, or be like, oh yeah, we're doing this or not doing that, or it doesn't make sense to do this or that. But I know, I feel, I should say, I don't speak for everybody, but being so tapped in, I get a feel for what people are looking for, and being I have the opportunity I do to be center stage with them. I could be like, hey, it'd be cool if you guys could do this or that or whatever. So whether it'll happen or not, I don't know, but at least get the word out. Plant the seed.
Yeah,
I don't
and you
need
can
the
give
claim
them
to fame, but
perspective from somebody who's, not
right.
playing with them necessarily, but when you're posing around with them and giving them some of that consumer feedback as
Yeah,
to, you know,
yeah.
can't hold the barbed wire broomstick or whatever, that's a bummer or whatever. So
Yeah, and I've mentioned how I want more hands, because that's a big one for photographers, especially, is you need to be able to use a different, the expression isn't just their face, it's their body, it's their hands, it's, whatever. Um, so that's something that I've been like, hey, I'd love if you guys could do more, hands for us. And I think from what I recall that they're definitely aware of that. And we'll see it more and more, I'm sure. Um,
So with this weekend coming up and Jeremy already teasing it, and we've talked a little bit about it. So it's all out weekend coming up, and more news is on the way. What are you hoping to see, or what would you like to see coming out of this?
Yeah. Well, I'm really hoping we get to see Brody's figure, whether it's a render or whatever. He's always been a favorite of mine. I've loved the Wyatt family since they debuted forever ago, and I'm always excited to get stuff of them. And now, of course, his figure has a whole new meaning to people since he's no longer around. But that's something I really hope to see, and I want to see more of this Luminaries uh, thing that they're doing, because we only saw Sting and then the two LJNs of Darby and Cody. So I'll be curious who they do in, was it Unmatched 4, I guess is what that would fall into, because 3 is Darby's LJN, I think.
I think you're right.
Um, and people probably think like I know everything. I mean, I've been shown a lot of lineups and things. I don't remember half of it. I mean, as a collector, like it's like being in a candy store. You see like everything that's coming. It's like, oh my god, but I don't remember majority of it anyway. But and I'm such a collector at heart, so I get excited for reveals. I just want to see like new faces, more and more new people, which I know a lot of people are eager to see. It's like, let's see a lot more non Kenny Omegas or Cody's. I mean, obviously they're the Cena and Rollins and Romans of the wave, so you're gonna see them. But I don't know, like I just, well, trying to think who else I really want. Obviously, everybody wants to CM Punk, but that just happened. So I would be shocked if we saw anything of him next week. But you never know with them. Even if it's just a gray scale render or something, that'd be really cool. People would explode for that, I'm sure. But
I mean, Jeremy did ask if they should fast track it. I think he
yeah,
already knew the answer, but
yeah, I'm sure they will. They'd be silly not to, in my opinion. I'd love to see more accessory packs. Maybe another ringside exclusive would be cool. I know of some that I don't know if they're still happening, but are really cool and I think people will love. So I'm very excited to see those come to life. And um, I don't know. Like I was just talking to friends earlier. I'd love a figure of the Butcher, but he's not even on TV right now. But I think he's like really toyetic and would look super cool as a figure. Um, but yeah, just more and more people. I want to fill that roster. I want
yeah,
to. I want to
world
have
build it.
exactly. I want a world build. I want to see a Tony Schiavone. I want to see an announce set. With all of them. I want a Justin Roberts ring announcer figure. I think that stuff will happen in time, but I hope it's sooner than later, of course. But
I do too. I just hope they don't make us buy another ring to get it.
I know. I have so many rings from over the years, and now we're getting the new gen ring. So here's another one.
How many rings do you think you have?
Ugh. Well, I have the Mattel ones. I never got the Elite one because I was like, I already have. It's like the same as the Wicked Cool one, pretty
Yeah.
much. So I was like, I don't need the Elite one. So I actually passed on that. But I have all the Wicked Cool ones. Let's see. There's two there. No, three, four, five, six. Oh, geez. One over there. No. Yeah, so probably a little less than 10, but I'd say who needs 10 wrestling rings, But I'm kind of excited for the new gen one in that regard, as it's, this one served its purpose and now it's time to upgrade completely. But it's like, that's just classic, then we need a modern one. I'm going to want a black one for Attitude Era, with the proper turnbuckle pads and, it's all that. I wish there's like a kit or something where it's just like, I mean, obviously the classic ring's blue. The modern one would be cool if they did like scratch logo turnbuckle pads and then modern pads and then like the different colored ropes and all that stuff. But it's like how many freaking rings? I mean, I'll still buy it, so I'm gonna say this like, oh, how many do we need? But then I'm first one in line to to order it, But
Well, I mean, from the sounds of it, at least from what they've said publicly, is they're hoping that this is the last ring that you'll ever have to buy,
yeah,
and hopefully we
right,
can just build
right.
on
I'll hold
or
Steve
mod
for
it,
that. Yeah.
and I hope they're right.
I hope so too, because I mean, as long as the blue is hidden, I would be okay. But I don't want because I'm OCD with this stuff. I don't want where the base of the ring is blue, but then the poles or the posts in the bottom and the turnbuckle post and top are black, but then you have this little blue.
Yeah.
It just looks silly. So I don't know. I hope they could figure it out, but I love it as the boards though. I really would love to. I wish it was a modern ring too, because I would make like an AEW version of that. Like when Moxley and Omega pulled the matting off the ring and all the boards were exposed. Like that'd
Yeah.
be cool,
It'd
but
be very cool.
maybe Jazwares will do that too.
Yeah.
So, probably. It wouldn't surprise me. But
Yeah, I mean, there's a world of possibility now. So I guess,
Jeremy's all over that stuff, He's like he sees, dollar signs, so to speak, because he knows collectors are gonna want it. So he's gonna be and he wants it, he wants that.
and I think it would help differentiate from rather than, oh, I have to buy another, AEW scale ring again that's the exact same, except
Yeah,
it's, new turnbuckle pads, I guess, or in a ring
right,
skirt and an
right.
action figure.
That's
So,
pretty much what I think the Aubrey one is. If I'm not sure. I mean, I'm actually working on that. right now. But you guys have seen everything with that
Mhm.
already anyway, so it's nothing, not spoiling anything. But I haven't opened it yet to see if that's really what it is. But I agree because I run out of space. They're big, they take up a lot of room. So it'd be cool. Like that's one thing too that I don't remember if I mentioned to Jeremy and them or to Ringside would be cool. Like when Wicked Cool had it where they did those ring skirt packs or whatever.
Yep.
And if they could just offer different posts and pads and skirts for, like Full Gear or Blood and Guts or whatever, Fight for the Fallen or whatever all those are. Um, it'd be cool if they just did that because then you have the base and then you could just swap out than having to buy a ring all the time. But at the same time, they probably want to offer a ring to people who didn't get the first one with Kenny.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of a double-edged sword, but I would love that. I would love guardrails with the logos and because I'm all about completing the scene. I want it like every detail I can add. I want that if I can have it. So yeah.
That's one of the amazing things about now, though, is we have a lot of that, like the things that I didn't have when I was growing up that I always
Mhm.
wanted for my world building.
Sure.
Like we didn't have like the guardrails or any of those things. And now it's like you've got guardrails and you've got folks like Extreme Sets building
Oh yeah, it's
backgrounds and
amazing.
dioramas. Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's, play sets and things like
Now,
that weren't there.
right now, look at what Squared Circle Toys is gonna do. Filling in more gaps with the crew. The ring crew and the security and um, the camera people and all that stuff. It's filling those voids, and it's awesome that people are realizing there's an opportunity there and they're running with it. Extreme Sets did that. We've never, like you said, we've never had like an arena. When I used to do my animation as a teen, I just filmed in like a bedroom with the carpeting and, there's the wall in the background. I didn't have, I would love to have had this when I was doing all that, where it's a nice backdrop and sells the illusion more.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
like you said, you're all about the realism.
Right.
So with your wrestling figure collecting, like, do you collect all of the lines? Like, where do you sort of draw? What are your boundaries?
Um, with Mattel, I mean, Elites and Ultimates are hands down. I collect them all. AEW, of course, I collect them all. Um, the basic line, I don't. And, Ringside hooks me up with those, which is great. They're great sometimes because there's people that never make it into an elite in that form. So it's nice to have those holes filled with them. Or they're great, like just stand ins for backgrounds and things. But if they didn't supply me with a lot of that, I probably wouldn't buy a lot of them. Because the articulation's been dialed back so much the past several years that they're just not. You can't do much with them like you used to. Not that you could do a whole lot with them before, but now they're. If I can't pose their ankle, they might not stand well on their own, so it's annoying. I need them to be able to stand, but their foot's just stuck. Like this. So usually they stand, but there's sometimes those occasional ones that, for whatever reason, they don't like to. Like Cena's elites with the gym shoes or whatever. He can't really pose his ankle. But yeah, the other lines like Zombie Sailor, I bought a few. Like they're awesome. Do I necessarily want to pay 40 for those guys all the time? No, because they're just display pieces for me, really. Trying to think what else do I really collect? Like the Masters of the Universe line, I collect. Well, the WWE Masters ones, I collect those. I'm kind of glad those are ending. But then that new line, of course, I'm going to be right back in with that. So I don't know. When I was growing up, I didn't collect like the full classic line. Like I stopped collecting for like a year, and it was like the worst decision I ever made because just taking a year off, how much you miss.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, like you said earlier, like, oh, I wish I didn't get rid of that, or I wish I bought it when I saw it on the peg for 20. I'm paying like 50 or something for it. So I try to avoid doing that at all costs now with anything. As I collect Star Wars and stuff now. I started collecting Fortnite a little bit just 'cause I like playing that. And Pops, you could see those.
Yeah.
Thank God I don't collect all. I don't know how anybody could collect all those. To be honest, there's a bajillion. But it's hard, you know.
Do
It's
you
a
ever
lot to
trim
keep track
down your collection? Do you ever sell off
of.
anything?
My family wishes I did, but um, not really, unless it's just something that doesn't make sense. Wrestling, I won't though. Ever since taking that year off, like I'm afraid to part with anything in that regard. And it, you know, it serves a different purpose in my life now too. You know, it's pretty much another career for me. So it's important I have everything, especially AEW. Like I wish I started from the beginning and had the chases because I like having alternate attires for them. You know, and I'm not gonna go spend like $500 on a figure. To me, I rather. I mean, granted, I just spent that on like Galactus or whatever, but he comes with other figures too, and that's, I don't know. It's just what really fits that value to me. You know, I mean, knowing the figure was $20 and was going for 500, like that doesn't sit well with me. I guess, you know, like I don't want to spend that kind of money. And that's not a knock on anybody who does. That's just not my thing. You know, I'd rather get like 6 elite sets or something for $500 or whatever. You know,
Yeah,
um,
it's one of the issues that we saw with the new generation arena. It was like
right,
the price value that the consumer saw wasn't hitting right. So
right.
once it hit that, then everything was fine, you
You're
know.
right. Yeah,
So
no, you're totally right, and that's a great example. To
and
me,
you've go ahead.
yeah, no, sorry. With the new gen thing, like I am all over that, regardless if I felt it fit the 250 need or not. You know, I with that stuff, I will not pass on an entrance stage. If it's a figure, the only way you could get it is doing that, then doing it. You know, for wrestling, other stuff I'll hem and haw over, but wrestling, I will not risk missing out on something. But
W- So what do you consider the holy grail of your wrestling collection?
ugh, I've been asked this a lot lately. And it's really tough. Um, I guess it'd be, and to me, I wouldn't necessarily say they're a holy grail, but to someone else, maybe it'd be like some of the unreleased, like Jack stuff I have. Like I have some unreleased TNA figures that never saw the light of day. They're nothing special, but it's cool to know like I have something that only a few people might have, if that. Um, but I don't know what my real holy grail would be. I know like my favorite figure as of late would be like the Ultimate Hogan, the NWO Hogan. It's like whenever I think of my childhood and wrestling, like that's my immediate thought is Hogan joining the NWO. You know, and he's a childhood favorite of mine growing up in the 90s. So, and when he went heel, I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. So, it just having that immortalized and super articulated and stuff is just really cool to me. And I'm glad they're making him again too. And just pray he doesn't screw something up again.
So is Hogan probably the character you have the most of in your collection?
Um, I have a lot of him. I want to say Undertaker might be. I mean, he's had so much stuff over the years. I'm sure Rey Mysterio is close to that. Um,
John
Hogan, of
Cena,
course.
I would imagine
Yeah, of
too.
course. Yeah, Cena for sure. Um, I'm pretty sure I have every elite of Cena. I don't
So
have all the Jack stuff though, but
yeah. Well, when we look at your photography and we kind of alluded to it, you know, you've got poker chips for Moxley for that scene from his debut, and you've got, you know, a horse for Hangman, you know, coming in, and you've got
yeah.
all kinds of different stuff. You recreated the boneyard, which is pretty awesome. You know,
Thank you.
when you're looking for those sort of extra pieces, like where do you go? Like, or do you just go to flea markets and you're just like, oh, that would be
Um,
perfect? Or, you know, how do you sort of accentuate?
I mean that's a good idea to go to a flea market. I mean that's always a crapshoot too. Obviously, you don't necessarily know what you're gonna find. Um, But like for the Boneyard match, that took months of planning because I wanted it to look right. And, I do a lot of research on even what exists for toys, and then it's like figuring out the scaling, of the motorcycle, or, finding trees was really hard. As silly as that sounds, but there's like nothing of toy trees or even miniature trees are like this big, and they're like this big. So that's not going to work. I need a tree like this big. So, going to stores like Hobby Lobby and Michael's was a savior. Like I'd literally just walk the aisles. I found like some wood paneling things that I don't know that people probably hang up like as an accent on a wall, and I use that as like the fence for wherever they were outside or whatever.
Hmm.
And like they have fake plants that people use to like decorate their home or whatever. So I bought some of that, and there's like fake moss and things that creates the look of grass and stuff. And then I had to like Wrestling Superstore sells a lot of the old Jacks like accessories, so I bought like tombstones from them, as they used to come with the old Undertaker like VCA figures or whatever. So they have like all the molds to some of that stuff. So, it's just finding all the bits and pieces. Like some of the trees were like aquarium items from a pet store.
Oh,
Like you
wow.
sometimes you really just gotta think like way out of the box, you know?
That's
Uh,
dedication.
yeah. Well, that's I've gotten so OCD over the years, and I'm such a perfectionist with this stuff that just for myself, like I compete with myself. I always try to outdo myself with my last shot if I can, depending on what I'm inspired by. Like these match projects really took off for me with the posters and everything. And so I'm always trying to think of really unique ones I could do versus just a regular match. That's not as fun, in my opinion, as something crazy like the Boneyard, or, really weapon heavy driven match like, Moxley and Omega. Just doing fun stuff like that. So it's really looking into all the props and just seeing what exists out there.
Is that where your focus is right now, on doing sort of the big match recreations like you've done
Yeah,
Sean
I'm
and
already
Taker and
yeah.
Mox and Omega and
Yeah, because of the feedback, like people just love those, which I'm thrilled they do because I put so much freaking time into those things. But that's like days of work, and then editing it all, because Instagram only gives you like 10 slots to post a picture or whatever. So I have to figure out how to condense the match into like 9 shots, since I like creating like the pay-per-view poster to go with the match or whatever. The Undertaker project was the most ambitious project I've ever done in terms of just creating a scene. Like I've never put that much time into, because we already have the pieces, you just need a ring and the crowd and you're done. But that was like a whole different place, a whole different setting.
so as we wrap up here, I want to go
Yeah.
through a few rapid fire
Yeah.
questions.
Sure.
In your opinion, what has been the best figure of the year? And we can do one Mattel and one Jazwares if we want to
Sure.
be fair.
I think for Jazwares so far, I would say Luchasaurus from Series 5. That's my favorite. He's just a beautiful figure, in my opinion. Uh, like I love the new Bam Bam from Legends 11. I
That's
love
a
that
great
figure
figure.
a lot.
Yeah, that head scan, it's way.
Oh, it's amazing. I think I have 4 of that figure because I love it so much.
They've,
I don't know why. Why do I need 4? But it's just so awesome.
that's one of the things that I love about just the most recent years is that the progression that we've seen. Like Mattel has done a good job of going back, and they don't always hit it, out of the
Oh,
park
sure.
with some of these head sculpts,
Sure.
but
Like
no
that
one
new Trish
does.
or whatever, I know people are bagging, and rightfully so. The likeness isn't that great, but I mean, you
Yeah,
could head swapper with the Mania Basic in the same outfit that came out a few years ago.
exactly. Yeah.
easy fix,
But yeah, I think that they've done a great job. And then
sure.
too, Jazzwares has done a great job of, progression.
Definitely, especially in a short time.
Yeah, you look at the difference between series one and then series two, it's pretty
Yeah,
big progression. And then you get into series five, and they still have their moments where they're not
sure,
hitting it, but
sure. And they will. It's
yeah,
just, and it's also the rookie figure of some of these people. They'll have more. I
yeah.
imagine. I guess it depends how much TV time they have, um, but yeah, that's with any toy line. Like you were saying, it happens. Not every figure's a home run. I think people expect them all to be a home run, which is the hard part. That's probably why Bill and them get beat up a lot over things. But then when they really knock it out of the park, they really do. Like that Bronson Reed or whatever that I heard supposedly is coming now.
Yeah, Steve on
Uh,
the stream said that it's
it
gonna
did
make it.
happen. Wow,
So
I'm excited because that figure just looked freaking awesome. I mean, I don't know anything really about Bronson Reed because I don't keep up with wrestling as well as I should anymore. But the figure, I was like, wow, like that looks so cool. And the Bam Bam nod of it makes me like it that much more as I like Bam Bam a lot. But
yeah, that tribute gear is amazing. So
yeah, that's gonna be a beautiful figure, the flames and just because he's like I love like the chunky figures usually too, which I think is also I like the Bam Bam. He's just a big hunk of plastic. He's super detailed and just looks badass.
yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons I love the Legends Vader figure.
Yes, that's an
It's
awesome
like
one too.
it's a figure that you never thought you were gonna get, and here's this mass WCW version of Vader.
Right, right. And I love that they're doing more stuff from the '90s. I hope they do more WCW stuff. Because like I was saying earlier, that's my childhood. That's what I grew up with. So seeing it like really excites me and takes me back, sort of thing.
What do you think is the most underrated figure of the year?
Like this is one of my favorite. I mean, granted, it's a little touched up, but
Yeah,
like I swapped the gloves onto him and stuff, but um, and the bandana's not on him here, but
that
uh,
looks great.
I love that figure. That's like my favorite chase they've done because it just captures Jericho. That's him. His suits, his goofy outfits, like I think it's underrated because some people are underwhelmed by some of the chases. Like even the chase Darby, like I think that's like super cool. But
Oh, that's very cool.
yeah. I don't know if you ever really been able to see him. I don't know if anybody's even found this
I
yet.
don't I don't know if they have or not. I'd have to
Either. But
go back and
it's so
check.
simple, but it's cool. There's
Yeah. Oh, that looks great.
yeah, it's really cool. And then
Is that a
then he's got his
pullover?
yeah,
Oh,
it's a pullover one.
oh yeah, that's awesome. I love that neck tattoo there too.
Yeah, yeah, it's the detail they put into him is really cool, and I like that. Punk's really helping put him over even more now. So and he's very toyetic with how he looks.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Some of the chases I think are underrated. Like even the Moxley one, I think I have that put away right now. But
The eye patch one.
yeah, like I was ecstatic to get that.
It looks very cool.
It's just so different from his other figures.
So, which figure are you looking forward to the most that you know that we're gonna get?
Um, for Jazwares, right now I'm eager to get my hands on Lance Archer. I've wanted him since they announced him. I also really want to see what Brody looks like, as that's a big one, which will be for a lot of people, I'm sure. I'm sure
Yeah.
that figure will be impossible to come by. Um, so get your pre-orders in. um, as far as WWE, I was really excited for that Fiend. Just because I loved Bray Wyatt. He's been my favorite of mine for a good 10 years or so now. And just really, I wanted to see what they do more with these Ultimates. I wish
Yeah.
there's a way they could make it like 4 a set instead of 2. get them out a lot faster. I mean, I know Steve's been releasing them, well, like quarterly now, I think is how they
Yeah.
come out. And then there's the Target one. So I know Steve's trying, so that's no knock at Steve. I just want more.
Yeah.
You know?
So before we let you go, remind everybody where they can find you.
Sure. So Instagram is my favorite account. That's where I'm most creative. Is Instagram/MBG1211. Twitter, you could either follow my personal, which is kind of boring, at Matthew Goldberg, or the fun one, which is Wrestling Figure News Source. So it's WrestleFig News is the handle. Then Facebook is MBG Films. I don't really post anything on there these days. The YouTube's MBG1211, and I think I nailed them all, if I'm not mistaken. But definitely follow me on Instagram and Twitter. That's where I hang out the most. I love chatting with everybody, so you can message me anytime you want. My inbox is always open, as I tell everybody. If you're looking for photography advice, just have a question about upcoming figures, um, it was always my goal to make a bridge for collectors with the manufacturers, which is why I created that account too, is to help share knowledge, to help, so much fake news, quote unquote, gets around, or silly rumors and things. So it was my goal to help clear the air a little bit. So if you ever have questions that I can answer, I won't tell you upcoming AEW things. So please do not. I'm not putting my job on the line for that. So I'm sorry, but there's a lot of really cool stuff coming that I'm sure we'll see some of it next week too. So I'm excited.
I am too. So thanks again, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks so
Yeah.
much.